Okay, movie fans, are we ready to talk about the most anticipated horror movie of the year? Yes, we're talking 28 years later. Before I get started, my name is Chris. You can find me on my socials as the Baba Duchess, part-time amateur movie critic and horror blogger, and a full-time drive-in mutant. And before I started filming, I took a drink of water and spilled some on my shirt, so that's what you're seeing. Sorry about that. I'm still breaking down how I really feel about this film. When I left the theater last night, I really liked it, and I still do like it. As I kind of sit and process it, I do find that I have some questions, and I'm thinking back on things that didn't quite work well for me. Of course, Danny Boyle is back as the director, and Alex Garland is back as the writer, and that's always a good thing. In the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to an island community. They are separated from the mainland by a causeway that is open to them to travel to the mainland at low tide. So this is the only time they're ever able to get to the mainland. And their rule is if you go to the mainland and don't come back, no one is going to come looking for you. So in the beginning of the movie, we meet Spike. He is a young boy, and he is getting ready with his father to go for his big first outing to the mainland, which is basically like a rite of passage in this village. So as he's getting ready, we are getting introduced to the various characters and what life is like on the island, where basically supplies are running low, and it's really is run kind of like a medieval society. Things are very primitive. We have bows and arrows. Food is strictly rationed, not a lot of meat, things like that. So sometimes they will have to go to the mainland and see if they can find anything. Add to this the fact that Spike's mother is very sick. They don't quite know what is wrong with her. She has these horrible, like blinding headaches, nosebleeds, and she gets confusion where she doesn't really know who people are or when it is or where she is. And this is Isla, who is played by Jodie Comer, who puts in a very good performance. Spike's father, Jamie, is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. And the first third of this movie really is about the father and the son and their relationship. They go out on this trek together. Jamie is really letting Spike not fend for himself, but letting him take the lead and making sure that he knows what to do if they run into the infected. And yes, we can get in again about the whole debate, infected versus zombies. Is this a zombie movie?
That, the Z word, don't say it.
I did a video about 28 weeks and 28 days later where I previously addressed this, and I think it's kind of silly to get into a debate about it. I mean, yes, these infected, they are not technically zombies because they are not undead, but this really is a zombie movie because it acts in really the same way. So, I mean, to say this isn't a zombie movie because of a technicality really doesn't really go very far with me, and I just think it's just kind of silly to truly argue about it. To have fun is fine. I mean, I know sometimes we kind of like to razz each other on these things, but to actually get into like real arguments is just silly because this is all in good fun. So I might use the terms interchangeably just because sometimes I forget to call them infected. So Spike and Jamie have their first outing together on the mainland, and this is where we are introduced to, now there are different types of infected. You have these kind of gray, slimy, kind of globular infected now that really they kind of crawl along the ground a lot. Kind of reminded me of the Cenobite Butterball from Hellraiser, like if that had a baby with Stellan Skarsgård's character from Dune and like painted it gray. That's kind of what these creatures reminded me of. And then you had the more traditional infected like we've seen in previous movies, just very skinny, running around crazy, very, very naked. And then we are also introduced to Alpha. Now, whether there are more of these, we don't know. But he is superhuman, really. Harder to kill, Their weaponry really doesn't do much against him. He's faster, he's stronger, he's tougher. They rebuilt him, they had the technology, you get it. That is a very old reference. Don't come at me. The rules are the same. Don't get any blood on you, you will get infected. But now you can kind of see how there's just been kind of this branch off from the infected we've been introduced to. So now you have one that's kind of evolved, but then you have these other ones that are almost devolving in a way. At least the society that we are introduced to on the island, they're not devolving, but in terms of technology and things like that, they are regressing. Like I said, this is more of a medieval society. So Spike and his dad, they go out for this scavenging practice run, and this is where we are introduced to Alpha, and they are forced to actually hole up for the night in this abandoned house. Or while they're there, Spike notices a fire off in the distance and is asking his father, what's that all about? And his dad's, oh, that's nothing. That, don't worry about that. It could be anything. I don't know what it is. Spike doesn't quite trust his dad, and you'll see that as the movie moves along, where Spike wants to trust his dad. He's close to his dad, but he can tell things aren't quite what they seem, and his dad is kind of holding back from him, whether it's about the fire or whether it's about things with his mom. And that was a lot put on the shoulders of a very young actor. His name is Alfie Williams, and he does a phenomenal job. He carries the weight of this movie, and there is a lot of emotional heavy lifting from him. I will say, without giving anything away, because I don't do spoilers, but I will say there was one particular part where I did not expect to cry. So this is a kid to watch out for. I hope to see more things coming from him in the future because he did a really good job. And of course, they get back to the island. They have this big party, and Jamie's kind of embellishing everything, making Spike into this big hero who saved him. And Spike really just wants his dad to tell the truth of what happened out there. But his dad just really wants to embellish things. So again, you kind of see that rift between them where he doesn't quite trust his dad. Later that night, as he is talking to someone else, and he was telling this person, hey, I saw this fire. What is this? And they said, oh, this must be this doctor that lives out there. And immediately Spike is thinking, doctor, I can get help from my mother. So this leads into the second part of the movie where Spike takes his mother to the mainland in order to search for this doctor. The doctor is played by Ralph Fiennes, who I think was clearly having some fun. I mean, yes, it is heavy, but I think he was having some fun with his character, who you don't really know what to expect after what has been told to him. He just doesn't know what to expect from this man. So it really is a story about family and this boy trying to navigate this world where, yes, this is the only world that he has known, but it is also a world of very specific roles because everything is about day-to-day survival. And if one person doesn't do their job, the rest of the village can suffer. But there is plenty of the infected zombie action that you would want in one of these movies. And especially if you are a fan of the gore, it's got plenty of that. Very well done. It does have that frenetic editing style that is kind of a trademark of Danny Boyle. And I do usually enjoy that. I think here it was overused, where sometimes it would take me right out of it, or sometimes it just felt like some things I was being beaten over the head with it, which is not really a feeling any moviegoer likes. I mean, I get it. We're very much, living like people did, way back in the dark ages. I get it. It did also open one particular question for me. They had to do with Alpha, where, and this doesn't spoil anything, where he almost seemed to have some kind of weird, like, psychic connection with birds. And I don't know if I was reading into something, but if you see this and you notice that, just tell me what you think, because I'm like, is that what we're saying? Is that part of their evolution? I don't know. I mean, it's a small quibble, but I just felt a little curious about that. The most successful thing to me about this movie, though, is the tension. This has some of the most effective tension I have felt in a long time. I have a very simple scale for tension, okay? The most tension I remember feeling in a movie where it was physical was Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window towards the end. Jimmy Stewart's looking across at Grace Kelly. She's in the suspected killer's apartment, and now the suspected killer is coming home. And of course, Jimmy Stewart is seeing this, and he can't do anything about it. And you just feel that. And that to me was like the height of tension. So my scale is basically Rear Window and then everything else. This is, for me, Rear Window levels of tension. It was very well executed. The positives far outweigh the negatives. It's just as I sat with it a little more, it was kind of, what about, this, and what about that, and sometimes people making stupid decisions. This is a situation no one would know what they're going to do, but there are some that it seems just like because the script needs them to do that, not because a person in a desperate situation would act that way. I give people a little more credit in horror movies when they do dumb things, simply because you don't know what you would do in a crazy situation. But there's always that level where you're like, okay, there's being panicked and then there's just being stupid. So sometimes there was a little of that. Nothing will ever top 28 Days Later for me, but this is a very worthy sequel. I am really not a fan of 28 Weeks Later. Again, I did a review a couple weeks ago on both of those films. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of 28 Weeks Later. I kind of appreciate what they did and the star power and everything, but it just didn't work for me. This one was a much better follow-up. Although I will say this story is kind of sandwiched in between. There's two bookends that are a direct continuation from 28 Weeks Later. I'm not going to spoil anything about that. But yeah, and this movie did have a lot of themes. Obviously, we're talking about post-pandemic life. Obviously, that was a very big influence. As Americans, we may not have picked it up as much, but there's also themes of Brexit, the effects of that, this theme of once being a part of something, but now they're not, trying to find their way. And it is part of a trilogy. So there will be two more after this. I am looking forward to the next one. Nia DaCosta is directing. She did the Candyman reboot requel. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So it ends abruptly and oddly, I'll say. And it also had, and again, this is not really a reference that most Americans are going to pick up. I'm kind of an Anglophile, so I just have this just useless wealth of knowledge in the back of my head about a lot of British culture stuff. And yeah, the last part of this movie, I think they were making a reference to Jimmy Savile. That is a rabbit hole you really don't want to go down. He was not a good person, and there were children involved, and we will leave it at that. I think that is what they were going for. So I found that a little odd. And again, the end was very jarring because it was just so tonally different from the rest of the movie. So just be forewarned, but there will be more. And now I know Nosferatu came out technically last year, but now I am officially naming this year as the year of the big movie dongs, okay? Because we see a lot of alpha. I mean, we see a lot of all the infected. They're running around completely naked, but alpha, yeah. I felt bad for the actor because it really had to be uncomfortable to run like that. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah, it is a good year at the movies, especially for horror. I mean, we had Sinners come out. We had Final Destination 6 come out. We've had 28 Years Later come out, which, yeah, did I like it as much as I anticipated? No. But still, I think it is a worthy sequel. I gave it 3 top hats. I wrestled with my rating, but there was still something that kept me a little bit detached from the film, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. And I don't know if it was just all that frenetic editing, which, again, I get it. That is a staple of Danny Boyle, and it's usually used effectively. But I don't know. There was just something where it just wasn't quite. And I'm not comparing it to the first because nothing will ever be the first one. But we'll see where this trilogy goes. I did hear that Cillian Murphy will be back for the next one. He was an executive producer of this one, so that was good to see. And as I like to do, I'm going to make a recommendation. Shallow Grave. This is Danny Boyle's first film. This is the Criterion Collection edition, which I haven't even opened this one yet, but this was Danny Boyle's first movie. It is Ewan McGregor's first movie, I believe. First time they worked together. This was before Trainspotting. I do recommend you check that one out. 3 flatmates find some drug dealer's money. That rarely goes well. Hijinks ensue. I wouldn't call it a dark comedy because the key word is dark, but it also has some of that humor to it, that British humor that I really like. Christopher Eccleston is in it as well, so check it out if you hadn't. That's a really good one. So overall, yes, I do recommend this one. It does have its flaws, but I was engaged with it. It has a really good heart at the center of the story, because ultimately, and I've always said this about zombies, infected, whatever you want to call them, those movies have to be character driven, because the zombies themselves don't have personality like a vampire or a werewolf, where you can make the movie about them. But in a zombie movie, it has to be about the people who are dealing with the zombies. It's why George Romero usually had a lot of social commentary in his. That's what he used his zombies for. You can do anything you want with it. And again, like this one did do a lot of social commentary. So yeah, some of it, for the Americans, we might not see right away. So just be forewarned, but it doesn't detract from anything. It's not if you don't understand, if you don't understand the reference, you're just not going to get it, except for the very end. I mean, it still stands on its own as just a what the heck's going on, but that added layer, I think most Americans are going to be like, what? So yeah, go out and see it. I hope you enjoy it. Like what you like. Don't be a dick. Be good to one another. Take one day at a time. Do the best you can. And I will end with one word. And if you know, you know. And it won't make sense until you've seen the last scene of this movie. Pancakes!
Pancakes!
No pancakes!